Welcome back to the BRRRR Investor Podcast, where our mission is to empower aspiring real estate investors in their journey towards building generational wealth. All right. Excited once again to be here with you guys. Gursh, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm excited for you to share your story. Gursh here, IT by profession, started off in BRRRR, single family. Now he's doing multifamily syndication. And I'm sure there was a lot of things going on in between. So, Gursh, welcome to the BRRRR Investor Podcast. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, likewise. Really excited to be here and talk about some of the wins and some of the losses too along the way.
The losses are, in my opinion, sometimes more important than the wins, right?
Yeah, you learn a lot. They kind of expand your horizon. So really thankful to be here. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Of course, of course. Yeah, for me, a lot of the failures that I had just made me better and helped me help other people. So excited to hear about that. So let's start off, share a little bit about yourself, your background, what is it that you do, where you're from, and so forth, just so the viewers and listeners can get to know you.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So I grew up in Tennessee, in Memphis. I lived in Memphis for about 20 years. It's my hometown. And then I spent about 10 years in Atlanta after school and college. That's where I kind of began my career in tech. In the last couple of years, I've been in LA. That's how we met through some of the great events that you host. Along the way, as I started working in tech, your typical 9 to 5, I generally like to work at startups where I can kind of apply some of the skills that I have. But about halfway through my career, which has been a 10-year career working in tech and at startups, I realized that, man, I'm helping a lot of these founders and a lot of these CEOs build their companies. But what am I really doing for myself?
Right?
So by fortune, one day I was at my job and I was on LinkedIn and I saw this ad for like a real estate investment seminar. It was in my same building and it was the same day. And at that point, I just had one property, one that I lived in it. I didn't know at the time, but I house hacked it when I did live in it before I moved to Atlanta. It was a property that I had in Memphis. So I was like, okay, it's downstairs, it's after work, let me go check it out. And so I checked it out, and it was about 2 hours long. And I got there, and it was like a 2 hour sales pitch on like why you should invest in real estate. And I was eating it all up. Like I loved it. I was sitting on the front row. And at the end of the course, there was like this, spend $1,000 and come to our 3 day seminar. And so I was like, all right, like I spent $1,000 on sillier things before. Like, why not? So I did it. And then immediately once I did it, I kind of like instantly had buyer's regret because I was like, man, like I don't know anything about real estate. I just have this like one house that I own that I now my friends live in it and they're paying like me rent. Like, what am I doing? So between the seminar was like 8 months away, between me going to this event and that seminar, I just decided to lock in and learn as much as I could about real estate. That meant like getting on bigger pockets, listening to podcasts, networking, talking to as many people as I could. Long story short, I get to this seminar and I like wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. I didn't know anything they were talking about. Nothing I had learned was applicable to the type of real estate that like they were working on. But nonetheless, that didn't really discourage me. It was a great experience, and that's kind of what fueled my like introduction to real estate investing.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I hear, a lot of people tend to go through a lot of similar steps. I went to a seminar as well. That's not necessarily how I got started. That was kind of, throughout the career. I think it's important, I think it's important to try things out. Obviously, you got to do your due diligence. You got to be cautious. There's a lot of things out there that are a scam. A lot of things are beneficial, maybe not for you, but for someone else. So some people may see it as a scam because it didn't work for them or they didn't even apply what they learned. So, I think, it's important to try things out, get with the right people. So that's very cool. Now, you mentioned house hack. Can you just touch a little bit about what house hack means for those, that if someone just has heard it for the first time?
It's funny that you bring that up because I didn't even know I was doing it until I learned what the term meant years later.
Yep.
So in 2014 in Memphis, I just graduated with out of grad school. And I thought I was going to be in Memphis for a long time, so I purchased a house. I needed some roommates. I was still like in my early 20s. Roommates were still a thing back then. I had my roommates pay me rent and I paid the mortgage, and they covered a significant part of the mortgage. So my living expenses were not so high. They were pretty low. I almost lived for free. It was a couple $100 a month. And I later came to find out that that is called house hacking, where you purchase a house, you live in it, and the majority of your costs are covered by people that are living there. So whether that's your situation, my situation, where you have roommates, or whether you can like Airbnb part of your house. There's several different ways to do it, but that was my experience of house hacking.
That's very cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So what's interesting is, it feels like I've known you for many years, but in reality, I think, we've known each other for a little bit under 2 years. When we met, like you mentioned, you came by to our event and, appreciate your support. You're always there. You're consistently spreading the word and inviting guests. But, when we met, yeah, I was just, I had been in Memphis. I've been looking at that market. I was underwriting deals, making offers, and then we met, and then it's like we had a great conversation. You helped me, underwrite some of these deals, like because you know the area very well. So I truly appreciate that, and I appreciate people like you that bring value to the community. So it's awesome to have you here and to hear about the journey that you went through. So let's get started with you mentioned you house hacked. That was one of your first projects. You out of college and so forth. What was next for you? And who had influence on you? Any mentorship, family, friends, things of that nature that you can share with us?
Yeah.
Positive or negative influence, right? Some people put you down. Some people push you forward.
Like the whole real estate investing community as a whole, I think is really powerful, man. Like people who have done it before, they want to pay it forward because someone has helped them. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do this is because I've had so many helping hands that have allowed me to get here. Like outside of my immediate family, just being there to like continue to encourage me to kind of pursue this, even though I know nothing about this when I started. Like, this isn't something that I studied for or trained for or knew anything about. I just kind of did it. The real estate investing community was key. One of the biggest things I think for me as I got started was on Bigger Pockets. I actually made a goal to connect with two people every week. And what that means was just like send them a Starbucks gift card and ask them to like speak with me on the phone for 30 minutes. And I would ask them the same set of like 5 to 7 questions, which was like, what would you change if like you had just gotten started today? Like, what would you tell a newbie? Like, what would your strategy be in this cycle? Things like this. And I probably did that for 2 months, spoke to close to, I don't know, like maybe 12 to 20 people over that time. And I've never spoken to them after those conversations, but like all those people were so willing to help and just share their advice, and they were complete strangers. And I think that's the most unique thing about real estate investing, because even in my personal career in tech, like I still don't get that kind of support as I'm trying to grow my career. So I think just like this channel of real estate investing is completely like dedicated to helping other people out. So there are a lot of people like property managers, wholesalers, realtors, the whole community, my immediate family who have been there from like a support standpoint. And so that brings me to my first property. And the timing of this is actually really interesting. It was 2020, January. I had finally like I went to that event in May of 2019, that 3-day seminar. And it took me 6 months after that event, after like continuing to educate myself, kind of being stuck a little bit in analysis paralysis. Like
Sure.
I didn't have a ton of money. I'd been working for 5, 6 years. I'd saved up about like 80, 90K cash from my tech career. I was fortunate enough to actually meet a wholesaler on Bigger Pockets from those networking conversations. And he had this property in Memphis, which in 2020 at the time it was a 57K cash.
Oh.
Okay, 57K. And it was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and 38128 Memphis. That was the area code. And these houses still exist in Memphis. Maybe not 57K now, maybe they're like 60, 80, 90K, but they exist. And so I purchased it from him all cash, 57K. And I poured about 15, 16K into the complete rehab cost. That took a couple of months. My first time doing a rehab, working with a contractor, all that stuff. And at that point, after that was over, I was kind of like, I didn't have any cash left. So I was like, okay, now I have this house. I fixed it up. I put it in there. I actually took the garage and converted it into a bedroom. So it was a 4 bedroom, 2 bath now. I just wanted to get the max value I could out of the appraisal. When that was over, he actually introduced me to a property manager that he knows. Her name is Zenobia Polk. She's amazing. She manages properties for me today. And she actually helps me with Section 8 rentals as well. So she's been a key part of my strategy as I've scaled. But long story short is when I went to refinance the house, that's when COVID happened. And so the refi that was supposed to happen in March or April actually took 9 months.
Wow.
I had to like no banks were like banks were trying to figure it out. They were
Sure.
like, we don't the original bank that I had said, hey, we're no longer doing refinances. So like they pulled out. Luckily so I bought it, I rehabbed it, I got it rented at the time for $900 a month. So my costs were covered because I didn't have a mortgage and the bills were being paid by the tenant. But I got it rented through Zenobia, who came through. I think we got it rented in like April or May. So for from January through I think it was like October, it was just kind of sitting there. And then finally, after things kind of settled down after the first 6 months of COVID, we got it appraised at 100,000. And I was able to get like I think what was it, like 70K-ish out of that house. So all in, I was about like 75K. I had a couple of months of rent. I got 70K back. And today it's being rented by through Section 8 housing in Memphis for $1,300 a month. Um,
Wow.
so with time, like initially that property wasn't a home run, but with time it became an home run. And that's what I've learned, man. Like time is your best friend in real estate investing. Things just tend to like go up when it comes to like rent and values. So that was the first taste that I had. It took 9 months, a lot longer than I wanted to. But after that refi hit and that cash hit my bank account, I was like, when are we going to do this again? So that's kind of what started everything.
It's addicting, huh? It gets that.
Yeah, it only gets worse, but yeah.
That's a cool burr, man. That's a cool burr. And again, look at the challenges that you went through, right? You weren't expecting. There's a lot of things you can't expect. And you brought up a great point. Time in the market, like they say, not timing the market. So sometimes you just got to take action, and there's a lot of outside factors you cannot predict. Things could change. Just have the right exit strategy. So phenomenal job there, man. Phenomenal job. That's exciting. And I want to just touch on Section 8 just very briefly. I know we have, if you're listening to this on Amazon Music or Spotify, we do have the link to our YouTube channel in the comment section below. So check that out. We'd love for you to check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share it with your friends and family. What I wanted to mention is we also have an episode about Section 8 there. So check it out. Section 8, obviously, the speaker that we have on that podcast episode is specifically for the LA area, but it's pretty, there's a lot of commonalities with Section 8, so it's something very cool. And the area that you're working in, it sounds like, Section 8 is a good approach, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. A couple of things that are really like great about it is, first of all, like it forces you to have great properties because they have specific standards that need to be upheld and requirements that need to be met. So your
Yeah.
properties are generally like in good shape, which as an investor, like, we're in the people business, right? We provide housing, we take care of housing for folks to live in, and the same that we would expect for ourselves we should be providing to others. So I have a lot of confidence and security knowing that the houses that I'm providing are like of great quality and in top-notch shape. And also like Section 8 is a government program, so the residents that live there are also really taking care of the houses themselves. They want to maintain their Section 8 status, and I've had nothing but top quality experiences with Section A. In fact, they're the best performing properties in my portfolio. It's a big part of my long-term plan of going forward is Section A. And, I always want to think about backup plans. So, like, if anything were to happen to Section A, like I could still get the houses rented on my own. But like as it stands today, it's something that like I really think is a big, unlock when it comes to like achieving maximum returns. And like at the end of the day, like it's available. Like it's more available than people think. And I'm not sure why it gets such a bad rap, honestly.
I don't know either. I mean, everybody has their opinions on it. There's a lot of misconception, I feel. Like you mentioned, based on my experience as well, I've noticed that, the tenants tend to have a lot to lose, right? You can get a good and bad tenant regardless. It doesn't matter on their income or anything like that. I've seen some interesting tenant situations with very expensive rental properties, 15,000 and above a month, right? So it really doesn't, matter that as much. However, I feel they do have a lot to lose. They tend to take care of the property better. You do have those regular inspections that keep you as a landlord, maintaining the property. And I share this with a lot of investors that I work with. Like, if you have to replace a toilet, if it's not completely broken, I mean, it's a good thing for you. At the end of the day, you get return on investment. You get peace of mind. You get, you save money from having to call the plumber out there. One call for a plumber is just as much as putting a brand new toilet in almost. Uh,
Yeah.
and another thing that I would want to share about this is, when it comes to toilets and components like that, get good quality stuff. Again, it's just going to give you peace of mind. I would say, spend that extra 25, 50, 100 bucks on a really good toilet, and it'll make a lot of a difference.
Yeah, the way I like to think, and this is like something that I definitely struggle with early on in my investing career. If something costed $5, I would try to find the $2 version of it, and then I ended up paying $10 down the road for it. And like again, like obviously we're in investing to make like long-term financial gains and to build wealth for ourselves. But it's really important to remember that like we are in fact as investors in the people business. Like we are
Yeah.
working with people to provide housing. And if you don't take that seriously up front, then you'll always try to find a way to cut costs if you just look at it at numbers. And like that's not how you build wealth long term, is by looking at short term numbers. It's something that I've made. It took me years to get over the hump of like, this dishwasher is $300. This one is $500. Like, should I go with the cheaper one or should I go with the one that's going to last me longer and look nicer and actually come with a better warranty? Even now, today, if I, go make repairs on my property, I'm like, wait, this one's much cheaper. But luckily, I've been through enough losses in that area to know that, like, get the better quality stuff. It'll definitely pay dividends in the long run.
And that's a phenomenal tip. I mean, it's a price you paid, I paid, we've paid for these little mistakes, and they're great. I embrace them. Again, they've made us better. But then, what's more important is for us to come on here and in the communities that we connect with, the networking that we do, and share it with others. Right? Share our mistakes, share our shortfalls, and obviously talk about the successes. But this way, we can help each other out and try to give somebody else a shortcut, right? That's truly what this is all about, in my opinion. So I wanted to get back to the BRRRR just a little bit. So you mentioned, it's a fascinating BRRRR, right? You bought it, wholesaler, cash, about 50,000. How much did you spend? You mentioned
I put in about
money.
15K into it.
15, all things all together, you were all in about 75K. You cashed out 70,000. You're all in 5,000 out of pocket, right?
Yeah,
You're getting rental. That
right,
5,000 has already been offset. So
right.
technically, no money out of pocket. You own the property. It's rented out, Section 8, streamlined. What else can you ask for, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that was, house hack. We got a burr. What is next? I know you did some Airbnbs and so forth. Can you share a little bit about that and what was your experience there and whether you're still doing it, you don't want to do it? What can you share about that?
Yeah, I mean that kind of set me off on like, when I did that deal, I was actually living in Atlanta. And so I used the money that I got back from the Burr to purchase a single family home for myself.
Okay.
And so at that time, I was trying to scale. because I was in a point where like, okay, I get how this works. Like, let me continue to do it.
Sure.
So I bought a new construction condo in Atlanta. And I used the money, it was like 450,000, like nearby downtown Atlanta. So I put, 10% down from the money that I got from the BRRRR. So all in, I was like 55, 56K after like closing costs and all that stuff. And I lived in it for a year. Uh,
Okay.
and I put 10% down because 10% down was enough to make the mortgage at an amount where I knew if I Airbnb'd it after a year, because it was new construction and in a desirable location, that like I could actually make some serious cash. So I lived in it for a year. And that entire year, I was just basically staging it for an Airbnb. And so along that time when I was living in it, the property that I had purchased in 2014, the house hack, I actually refinanced that property. So I bought it in 2014 for like 125K. In 2020, that property was worth about 260. So I got like 90K in cash back from that. So that helped with some of the like cost of staging this property, and I turned it into an Airbnb after a year. Kind of went nomadic for a while. I kind of started like staying in other Airbnbs, and kind of started traveling a lot more, just to like kind of live my life because I wanted to experience that at that time in my life. But the Airbnb, man, was a lot of ups and downs. When I first started, I was super excited. So I got everything set up. It was beautiful, brand new construction. I had done everything by myself. I did not ask for any help. I was like, I'm gonna get this done. I actually put it on Airbnb, and I had like 4 or 5 friends stay there first so they could leave me some really great reviews. So I kind of set it up in a way that, and I didn't charge them. I was like, just come stay, like, please come stay. And they gave me tips along the way too. Like, they actually gave me helpful feedback, like, hey, you probably want to do this. Hey, you probably want to do this. Hey, we noticed this. And so I try to like mitigate as many risks as possible from the get-go. And then for like 6 months, it just absolutely crushed it. It was completely booked. It was in a great location. But one thing that I made a huge mistake on, and I'm kicking myself for this, is when I purchased this property, it was in a condo. It was a townhome. And the HOA had rules around short-term rentals. And
Oh,
and I totally looked over it. I didn't even look. So I was just so bent on getting this Airbnb up and running because at the time in 2020, that's like what everybody was talking about in the real estate community. So I was like,
yep.
I want to get my hands in on this. And so I messed up. It wasn't that they were like, hey, you have 6 months to figure this out. Like, it can no longer be an Airbnb. And I tried to fight them on it. I tried to throw everything at the book on them on it. I gave them a ton of like information around like, hey, having an Airbnb in condos like actually raises the property value. And that's what HOAs are really designated for, is they want to maintain the property values and maintain the style of living. That's what they are like legislated to do. They weren't having any of it. And so they gave me 6 months to figure it out. So for the next 6 months, I kept Airbnb-ing it as much as I could. It continued to crush it. But I then had to like make some moves and figure out the next step. So eventually I got it long-term rented. Uh,
Oh,
I have a great realtor in Atlanta. Her name's Alex Pruitt, and she was able to find some tenants. They're medical students at Emory. They signed a 2-year lease. It covers the mortgages. It's making cash flow. Not as much as the Airbnb, but
of
still,
course.
it's a good property. I bought a brand new construction, and it's appreciated pretty significantly from the initial purchase. So Airbnb, like, initially I fell in love with it, and then my townhome association kind of ruined it. But I think I've learned a lot through that experience. And I think the biggest takeaway is always have a backup plan. Like, if you can't Airbnb it, like, how make sure it can rent long term so that way you're not stuck with the costs at the end.
Absolutely. Having the right exit strategies even before you go in is crucial. So that's cool. I'm glad you were able to overcome that. So you still own that property, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Let's go into tell us about failure and a success that you want to share with us.
Okay.
A failure that you feel that something, sticks with you and you really want to share it.
It's actually very similar to what I just shared. But after, from 2020 to like 2023, I picked up 6 single-family homes, a small 5-unit multifamily with a partner in Cleveland, and so I was moving pretty quick. And I was doing a lot of transactions. Like in between those were some refinances also to help me pull cash back, a couple that I've mentioned. But after this most recent property close to downtown Atlanta that I purchased, once I put it on Airbnb, I needed another place to live. And
That's right.
this was an interesting time in like the US economy where like houses were really highly priced, but mortgage rates were still kind of low. And I was feeling a lot of pressure like on my own. Let's put it on my own to like go find another house. And so I bought a house in the suburbs, maybe 15, 20 minutes away from downtown Atlanta, with the intention again of making it an Airbnb. I had such a great experience with my first time, although the outcome wasn't exactly what I expected. I knew that if I had an exit strategy, I would be fine. So I purchased a house in, I think it was 2022 or 2023, in the suburbs, and half of it was furnished, which was interesting to me because I didn't have to like spend a lot of money, and I knew that if I was going to make it an Airbnb, I would have to like furnish it. And for anybody who's doing furnishing, Amazon and Wayfair are like my best bets. You can finance things for 24 months without interest. So you can spend, 5 grand and literally pay 412 bucks a month over 24 months to furnish it and bake it into your costs as you're putting up an Airbnb. So I purchased this property. It was 480,000 at the time. Like I probably paid a little bit too much for it. It was a very competitive market. But when I got it, the mortgage was around like 24, 2,500, just above a 3% interest rate. I can cover those costs for Airbnb. So same thing, 10% down. That's the numbers that make sense for me. I lived in it for a year, got it, got the rest of it furnished. It was a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath. So none of the bedrooms were furnished. Some of the living room items were. So like getting all the bedrooms furnished and getting all the material in there kind of took me some time. As again, like I didn't really ask anybody for help. I just kind of did it on my own while working full time and trying to like live my life. So it did take the entire year to do it. And same game plan. Get some friends to come in there, stay for the first couple of weeks, and give me feedback, get it up and running. And from day one, it just never cash flowed the way that I thought it was gonna go from day one. There were some successes, like I had a couple of long-term tenants or Airbnb folks that stayed there. I had two like over 90-day stays, and
Nice.
those were really successful. But outside of that, I think over the 2 years that it was on Airbnb, it was probably in the hole like 25, 30K. So it cost me. On the flip side of that, like it was really convenient because at that time in my life, I was traveling a lot, back and forth to LA and Atlanta. Also just like random parts of like just doing a lot of experiencing on my own. So it was my primary residence. But when I would go travel, somebody would stay there and like help me pay the cost of the mortgage. So when I say I was in the whole 20, 30K, it sounds scary, but also like I would have paid that anyways had I been living there. I probably would have I paid more in actuality, having lived there. This year, I realized that like if I want to continue to scale, I can't continue to have this kind of like negative cash flow on my pockets, especially now that like my primary is in LA. I had to make some choices. And so earlier this year, I went back and I sold all the furniture that I had spent 7 months putting in there. I did it all on Facebook Marketplace. If you're selling furniture, I highly recommend Facebook Marketplace. It's amazing. I sold, I think, like 80 items of furniture on there.
Wow.
Everything from toasters to couches to bed frames to plates to pots and pans. You can do it all. So I sold everything, got it completely empty, and now it's rented out long term for $3,500 a month, which was a big win. Again, shout out to like my realtor, and she helps me manage the property too, Alex. She found the tenants. They just moved in there a couple of months ago. But another thing along the way that I learned about this is when I purchased the house during like this time of the economy, I didn't take into account how the assessment taxes would increase. And so what I thought was a $2,400 mortgage when I purchased it actually changed to like a $2,800 mortgage a year later because of the increase in
Property
the
tax.
yeah. And like I didn't think about that when I didn't even know, man, until I saw the bill and I tried to fight it, but like that's just the way it is. That also like really hurt with the cash flow from the Airbnb standpoint. Luckily, from like a renting standpoint, like I make enough from rent to be able to cover that. But now something that I've put into like my analysis when I buy is like, how are the taxes going to increase when I purchase this house over the next couple of years? So that house was full of lessons. Ton like just from the beginning, just overlooking things and probably from the start, like paying too much for it, not thinking about the taxes, not understanding that like maybe 15 minutes away from the city and being as big as it was is not like a great Airbnb option. So lots of servings of humble pie once I purchased that house.
Exciting story, but what's most exciting is how you turned it into something positive, right? It didn't stop you, did it?
No, absolutely not. Like
Right.
I think that's the thing with like real estate is like even when you lose, there's still a lot of like flexibility that it
Forward
gives
learning.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just really how you look at things, right? Glass half full, half empty, just really how your outlook is. So just have an abundance mentality and embrace, the challenging situations and just turn them around. That's the best way to do it. So this is exciting. I'm really enjoying the conversation. I hate that it's coming to an end, but I want if you can share with us. I know you mentioned, you did a lot of networking. You reached out to a lot of investors or experts in the industry via Bigger Pockets and other channels, and you asked them questions. One of the question you mentioned is, how did you get started, right? You mentioned how did you get started? How did you, what things would you do different? So with that said, and being that, the our podcast, it's for everybody, anybody and everybody, right? It's really focused on those that really want to get started, that aspiring investor, that investor that really did a deal, got burnt, and is afraid to do it again, or that investor that wants to do it but is listening to mom, dad, cousin, uncle. Some people that may not have experience in real estate or real estate investing are hesitant to get started because they're going to get judged and so forth. So this is truly what it's about and helping them take that first step. So with that said, what is that one advice you would give someone that is trying to get started in real estate?
The one advice that I would give someone, man, there's so many pieces of advice. What's always served me the most is lean on the community that real estate investing has and can provide to you. None of this would have happened had I not started connecting with other investors. It doesn't matter where you are or like where you are in your investing career. Like when I moved out to LA, one of the first things I did was started to look up like real estate meetups. That's where I found your meetups and where I started going to meet people. And although now I consider myself like an experienced investor, I've met a completely different set of investors that participate in LA. I've learned more about building ADUs, which wasn't even in my like game plan until I started visiting your networking events. I've learned more about creative financing from those events. I've learned more about how to like use HELOCs to like potentially purchase properties. All that through the people that I meet at events. And like when you start meeting people and start talking, that's when ideas start kind of get floating around. And that's like exciting. Like ideas are the basis and foundation for motivation to start taking action. So when you're getting started, like you don't have to do it alone. There's a full community that
Yep.
ready to pay it forward. In my experience, most people who start in real estate investing have had the support of other investors behind them. So like you don't have to do it alone. Certainly you can educate yourself through the literature and like things that are out there, but start getting out there, start meeting people, start talking to people and set goals to start talking to people. Like be intentional about it and it will come back like full circle for sure.
So that's awesome. Sounds like you got a lot of value from the networking events. You found a lot of resources, potential partnerships, and it sounds like you're recommending people to stop by our events, right?
Yeah,
So
I would say so. It's been a big game changer for me.
I appreciate that. And that's truly what these events are for that we put together. We started these about 3 years ago. It's just to be, an added resource, added support, a family. Again, in my opinion, real estate is a lonely business. Like you said, don't do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. So that's crucial. So to know more about our events, we do have the links in the comment section below, whether you're listening to it on Amazon or Spotify or on YouTube. The links are there. We do have online versions of these events as well. So if you're not in the LA area, please join us. We are going to have more information about Gursh in the comment section below as well, and ways to reach him. So please, connect with him. Share this podcast and check out other episodes as well that we have. Subscribe to the channel. Gursh, I truly appreciate you coming by, man. Thank you so much, and I look forward to having you back in LA and then reconnecting.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, would love to connect with anybody, whether it's Section 8 housing. Now I'm doing a lot of multifamily as well for apartment syndications and raising capital, which came out of complete nowhere. And a lot of it is just based on like where the market is today. I think you mentioned earlier, like not timing the market, but just time in market. That was a really interesting thing that you said, because like, although I never thought about it that way, like that is what investing is just time is going to keep happening and how you decide to play the game. And in real estate, there's so many different ways to play it. So would love to connect with anybody out there who wants to discuss those things.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Let's take action. Have an awesome day. And until next time.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you all for joining us on the BRRRR Investor Podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, please hit like and subscribe to our channel for more real estate insights. We love hearing from you, so please leave your thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to cover in the comment section below. Be sure to check out our website, thebrrinvestor.com, and follow us on social media at The BRRRR Investor. Keep learning and investing, and we'll see you in the next episode. I'm your host, Alex Nale. Stay invested.